the fantastic city of Novi Sad in Serbia, and behind us is the Danube-Tisa-Danube Canal. It's the home for the 6th World Feeder Fishing Championships.
There are 28 nations battling it out for the right to become world champions, simply the best of the best in their chase for gold. Will it be Hungary, will it be Holland, or will it be Serbia?
Alternatively, it could well be England. They're back again looking for another gold. They won it in 2014, they won it in 2015, and if they can do it again 3 times on the bounce, well, that will be history in the making.
This event is obviously now the second biggest event in freshwater fishing, and it looks like growing even more.
This is the most important thing the whole year in my life this year, and for the team it's the same.
It's massive now. It's an incredible event. I mean, it's 6th year and it's just grown and grown and grown, not in just the anglers' ability. The anglers' ability throughout the nations now has improved unbelievably. You can see now, but the feeder fishing in Europe has gone, it's ridiculous, it's gone through the roof.
And one of the consequences of that is that we've got teams from absolutely everywhere this year. There are people from 28 nations here in Novi Sad, from as far afield as Russia and South Africa.
Now, the event is run over 2 days, and the object of the game is to catch as many fish as you possibly can. The more fish you catch, the bigger your weight. All the fish are weighed at the end of the day, of course, and if you win with the highest weight in your section, you get 1 point, second 2 points, all the way down to a maximum 14 points, because there are 14 people in each individual section. Now, the winner of the whole tournament will be the team with the least points at the end of day 2.
It's not going to be a big weight match, but bites to be had for everybody, and this event can only be won by a good team. It's simple as that.
We have a good chance now, that's true, but I still believe that the best team on the bank is England, and yes, there are a group of other teams like Holland or Hungary who can be followers, but I think England is my favourite still.
We've got to win it this year, not forget about the last 2 years. Let's win it this year. It's about this year, and then that'll make it a nice bonus. But it's about winning it this year, not what's happened the last 2 years. That's gone. We've got to worry about this year. But of course it's on us, man. We won't be human if it won't. And we know we could create a bit of history, but we've got to win it first. And to tell you how difficult it is, it's never been done before. Straightforward.
There's going to be people watching this that will sort of understand fishing matches, but they might not understand feeder fishing. Talk us through feeder fishing. What exactly is it?
Basically, obviously, you've got float fishing where you cast out a float, you watch your float, you fire bait out with a catapult or throw it by hand. With a feeder, it literally is what the name suggests, that's a feeder. All your bait has to go through that, so you can put ground bait in it, etc. I've been putting ground bait, joker, chop worms. They come in different sizes, so that's quite a big feeder that I'd use for baiting up. That's more a small feeder. That's what they call a cage design. The idea is the water can penetrate the cage, release the contents a bit quicker. That's more used for sort of shallow water, but that's been my sort of fishing size feeder. So big feeder for baiting up at the start to get the bait down, smaller feeder for catching the fish. If we start with the actual setup, the first thing your rig has to be 100% free running. That's from a fish welfare point of view. So say if my main line breaks, then the feeder falls free and there's no risk of a fish getting tethered. So it has to be 100% free running. I've got it on a little link that I made myself, little plastic feeder. Then all I've got there, little stop, just protects the knot. I'm actually, because the bites on this venue are very delicate, we're fishing braid straight through. Now, if you don't know obviously what braid is, the advantage of braid is it's got 0 stretch. So if you imagine a fish starts sucking the hook bait, every little indication is magnified. So by fishing braid direct, I can see the bites a lot better. It allows me to catch more fish, particularly the skimmers are very delicate biting. Bite indication is vital. Obviously, what you've got is the rod gets softer as it goes down. I've got a 1 ounce, what's called a 1 ounce test curve tipping. It's got a little orange bit on the end, and that's what I watch. Very similar to what you'd be doing if you're float fishing, but instead I watch the orange bit on the tip. When you get a bite, like today, it's like that. That's just a little catfish sitting there with a bait, going like that, rocking its head, trying to get rid of the hook. But sometimes if you get a bigger fish, it will virtually pull the rod in. But just watch that tip. If you get a single tap, you don't strike. What you do is wait for the continuous movement, then you know the fish has got the bait, pick up, and hopefully it's fish on.
So let's have a look at the contenders to win this competition in greater detail. First of all, the favourites, England. They won the World Championships 2 years ago in Ireland, with Steve Ringer also winning an individual gold medal and Mick Viles taking the individual bronze. Last year, England successfully defended their title in Holland, but only just. They beat France by half a point. Mick Viles took another individual bronze. This year, England named an unchanged six-man squad. Brothers Steve and Phil Ringer, Mick Viles, Adam Wakelin, Dean Barlow and Rob Wootton made up the team.
Well, we've had a week now and I think we're 80% there, 85. When I speak to lads after this session, just to put a few things together, but I think we're all right now. I'm quite comfortable with tactics I'm going to fish at weekend. So, and there's 5 sections and they're all a little bit different. I think 1 or 2 sections might just need tweaking, but I think today and yesterday was a big learning curve for us. So I'm quite happy now. Lads have done well last 2 days.
Hungary were also a good bet for the title. Their coach is former world float fishing champion Tamas Valter, leading his team for the final time here in Serbia.
As a captain, this is my last year with the Hungarian team. I try to fish for Hungary in the future, even in the feeder. Everybody's talking about 3 nations who are ahead. This is England, Holland and ourselves, Hungarians. I think it's not true like this. I think there are 7, 8 countries who can be on the podium. Obviously these 3 countries mentioned before are the best 3 teams on the bank. I agree, but it's fishing. It's not running or swimming in a swimming pool. It's fishing. So things can happen. Not everything can happen, but anything can happen. So I think these 7, 8 countries can go for the podium. So I have to mention Germany, Czech Republic, Russia, Ukraine, and the top 3 countries.
The Dutch, so disappointed to fail in their own country last year, were determined to find an improvement. They were world champions in 2012.
Main competitors will be Hungary and England, obviously, but there are more countries. I don't know whether everybody has seen, but the Germans are doing well. Belgium are catching a lot of fish. Just to name 2 teams, I expect always something from the home nation, although last year that didn't happen. Hungary will be the main competitor for me personally.
The main threat to the 3 top-ranked nations could indeed come from Germany. Their young team were an unknown quantity, and after a week in practice here in Serbia, it was clear they'd found some fish.
We have worked over 6 years to this point, and in this week we get from day to day to day, every day a little bit stronger. We get more information about the vino, and it always works one day better, and that's very great.
The stars of the show are usually the anglers, but of course there are more stars in this show, and they are the fish. And we've got a bucket here with a couple of the species in, just to show you exactly what the guys are going to be fishing for. Now, this is going to be the target species. It's a real bonus fish, this one. This is a bream. You'll hear them referred to as skimmers. And this is quite a big one for this venue. It's probably 400 grams. And if we look at its head, you can see there that the mouth protrudes down, and these things will be feeding on the bottom or just off the bottom. And when the bait goes out, these will come into it, and normally they will feed on the bottom like so, but they're also mid-water feeders, because on the bottom there is another species that we will hear an awful lot about. So that's the first one, that is bream. And this is the other little critter that will make up a massive amount of the weight. And I'm just going to roll him over. This is an American spiny cat. He's got 1 spike on his dorsal fin. He's got another spike on his pectoral fins, and these are really, really sharp. That's like a drawing pin. You can just see the end of the spine there. And you have to be really careful when unhooking these things. We don't have these in England. And you can see there, look, he's got his whiskers. That's what he uses to find the food. And bearing in mind how small a fish he is, just look how big that mouth is. I'll pull that open. Look how big that mouth is for a small, small fish. You can get an awful lot of bait in there, and they're voracious. They swim around in really big packs. So if you catch one, there are an awful lot more around. But when you speak to the lads, certainly, they've got to watch these, because when they're unhooking them, they hurt. There's 1 spike. There's another on the other side. Very, very sharp, and 1 on the top. So that's the other one. That is the American spiny cat, or alternatively, the catfish.
Anglers from 28 countries are about to go into battle in the 6th World Feeder Fishing Championships here in Serbia. The teams have been practicing hard for a week to get to grips with this venue, the Danube-Tisa-Danube Canal in Novi Sad. England have 6 anglers in their squad, but only 5 can fish tomorrow. So managers Tommy Pickering and Glenn Lawrence have a difficult decision to make. Will they make a change by bringing in Rob Wootton? Or will they stick with the same team who came away from Holland with gold?
I'll stop press news now, and we're at the end of practice day back in the England camp, and the team is now being announced. We've got Glenn and Tommy here. So practice, it's been good, Tommy.
It's been awesome, to be honest with you. In fact, today has been outstanding, one of the best days we've ever had in years we've been doing it. So I thought the lads were outstanding today, all 6 of them, and we've left Rob out again for no other reason that lads have won it for us last 2 years. So we've let the 5 who fished the last 2 years and fish on tomorrow and see what happens about changing team if we need to change it on Sunday. But if Rob had fished, we'd quite equally as happy. It's just that we feel that it's hard to change a winning team. It really is.
Now, Glenn, how important has this practice been? You've got no more practice time yet. Do you think you've nailed it?
Well, we couldn't have done any more. We've built up every day. It's got better as practice has got better every day. This venue is just outstanding. This is the best week's practice I think we've had while we've been doing job.
Yeah. Last 2 days has been an incredible experience. It really is something that lads will take forward for years and years to come. Whatever happens at weekend, but we all feel like we can win it again this weekend, and because we feel pretty confident now. I believe we've got the 6 best anglers, but have we chose the right tactics? We'll find out tomorrow afternoon.
The anglers, of course, don't get to choose where they want to fish in a big match like this. There is a completely random draw. So Hughes went along to get the news.
Well, I'm in the managers' meeting room at the moment, and what's going on is a very, very crucial part of this tournament, and that is the draw. Everything is random, so the managers cannot choose where they want to fish. They can't choose which guys are going to fish in which section. And I'll explain the sections to you briefly. There's 28 nations. They each put 5 anglers forwards, so there's 5 different sections. We've just heard England being called now. Glenn Lawrence, manager, will come up now with his team list. What he's going to do is put the team list on the table. That will be checked, and then he will have to draw some letters out of the bag. The first letter to come out is letter B. What that means is Dean Barlow, who is first one in the list, will be fishing in section B. Phil Ringer will be fishing in section A. Steve Ringer next. Where will Steve be fishing? E. Mick Viles, he's next up. He's going to be C or D. He's in D. And then last up now will be Adam Wakelin, and he's going to be in C section. There's only one left, so completely random there. We can see that is where the boys are going to be fishing. They don't yet know which pegs. That draw takes place tomorrow morning, and then as soon as the peg draw has taken place, they're straight out onto the bait, and the competition will commence. So down on the bank now, there's a few minutes before the match starts, and we've got Rob Wootton, England's 6th man, who's behind Adam Wakelin. What's the tactic?
Basically at the minute, it's just putting a few feederfuls of bait in just to kick off the peg. Obviously everyone gets 10 minutes pre-baiting, and throughout the week we've been sort of thinking how best to use this 10 minutes. Feeding the peg as if we're fishing, so casting in, waiting a minute, reeling out. Casting in, waiting a minute, reeling out. A lot of joker in the mix, bit of chop worm. Not loads and loads of bait, because we don't want to ruin the swim before we've started, and we'll just maybe up the bait as the day goes on. And then once the match has started, obviously you can put a hook length on and bait your hook and start fishing.
So Mick, this is it, the big one. What do you think of your peg?
Well, we're at the start of D section, I'm on D2. Obviously you've got the advantage of there's a split between C and D. You know, obviously D1 would be everybody's dream peg, but I'll take D2. We've obviously not fished under these conditions in this heat. Obviously the rest of the teams are here competing against us, so fingers crossed the peg will be as good as I think it is at this moment in time. England are a very strong team, as the last 2 years have proved, but when all said and done, this is a new venue, we're in a new climate, it's a lot hotter, we're looking at different species, it's new territory for us, and yeah, I'd like to think that, you know, we're up there in the mix. You know, there's some good competitors. Hungary obviously a great challenge for us this year, as are Holland, you know, every year, and but yeah, if I didn't feel confident, I shouldn't be here, so yeah, let's make it 3.
So we've got the defending champion Jose Evangelista from Portugal with us at the moment. Jose, what's this venue like for you? Have you practiced here much?
Yes, I practice all week with my team, and it's a very complicated place, very technical. For us, for Portugal, it's not easy to adapt to this place because in Portugal the fishing are very different. Everybody says it's the best place, one of the best places in the venue, the sector.
So great start for you in your title defence for your individual title as well. Do you think it could be 2 in a row?
Not easy, not easy. Have in this sector close to me, have Mick, and they are a very good angler, very strong. Not easy.
Let's have a look down the sections now, and we're in A24, the England contingent, Phil Ringer, and he's had quite a good start so far. Talking to the boys behind, first or second in section?
It's great, isn't it? This is going to be a really interesting, very technical match, as we've heard from all the guys so far. What they mean by that is that presentation is so important because this is a fish catching race. This is the sort of competition that these guys live for. They love it. When there's small fish, we've seen loads of little catfish, some odd skimmer bream. You know, it's a fish catching race, so the team that catches the most of these small fish will probably win each section. And tiny changes, little bits of presentation, you know, hard thinking angling, if you like, is what's going to be the important thing here.
Next door we have an angler from Denmark, and then A26, that is Marco Hoffman from Holland, and he is no slouch, he's catching a few as well. The Croatian angler in 23 looks like he's got a fish on. So there's fish all over the place, but those bonus silvers, they do make quite a bit of difference, and it's those that's going to be the difference, I think, between first and second place. Rather than having one section of 28, what the organisers do is split into 2 sections of 14. Now, we know that England, Hungary and Holland are the 3 key players in this competition. That's where all eyes are, but actually in the upper numbers, 13 to 28, there isn't a Hungarian. The Hungarians are on their own in the first part of the section, and this match is going to be England-Holland really for first place. Behind Felix Sherman now, Germany, A6. And word on the bank is that Felix is probably in the lead in this section by some considerable margin. He's got a lot of silvers in front of him. And word on the bank now is that already, with a little over an hour gone, he's almost at 2 kilos. Remember, 6 kilos is a very, very good weight. So let's have a little look at this process now with Phil. So he casts out, the feeder hits the surface there. 1, 2, 3. Just watching the line.
Just counting down how fast the feeder's.
That's it. The line's tightening across. It's going to hit the deck any minute. We see the line go slack, and the rod tip will just nod ever so slightly when it's hit the deck. Nearly there. The pressure comes out of the line. It's about 12 seconds to get down. That's now on the deck. What he's now thinking about is the fact that that hook bait is sinking. There we are. That's a bite very, very quickly. That hook bait, without any shadow of doubt, did not get to the bottom. No question. This is probably going to be a silverfish.
Should we have a fiver on it? Is it a silverfish or is it a catfish? What do you reckon?
I'm not a betting man, but logic tells me that
it should be a skimmer, shouldn't it?
It should be, yes. You know, exactly. See,
and it is.
And that's precisely what I'm talking about, and it's the knowledge of what's going on the bottom of the lake, or the bottom of the canal.
That's a good sized fish. We look at the fish that we've seen in practice and so far this morning on the first day of these World Championships. There's very little in here, certainly feeding, that's over a pound.
No.
From what we've seen so far. So that is what, 8, maybe 10 ounces, couldn't quite see.
Yeah.
But that's a huge fish for this competition.
But he's had 3 of them now.
I know. Exciting, isn't it?
That's a great, great start. That's a skimmer.
Skimmer. That's a bonus fish.
That's fantastic. That's worth probably 2, possibly 3 of the smaller catfish, and this is what the match is going to be: as many fish as you can possibly catch. Tommy's instructions: do not come back without anything. I don't know if you picked it up, but we can't see into his ground bait trays. He's got that little shield on there, we can't see it. Now, I noticed that, where is it? There we are. Knew it was a silverfish straight away.
Funny
now, I mentioned a second ago that there'll be a different type of mix going in the ground bait. When he reached into bait up after he'd had that last silver, he reached into a different part. He goes further back and towards the left, whereas when he's on the ground bait for the catfish, he's going more towards the right of it. Just watch where he's reaching in now. So he's coming back there. He's got 2 different tubs of mix in there. One of them's going to be a little bit cloudier.
Again, we talk about edges, don't we? Yeah, that's where one of the edges is. It's how efficient you are at that turnaround of casting, getting the bite, unhooking the fish, getting the fish into the net, feeder filled and back out again. So that's one of the edges. The other is the quality of your ground bait mixes, whether you understand what's doing, you know, what you need to do to get to the fish that you want to catch. So here we are in the higher numbers of B section, B20 behind England, Dean Barlow. Dean struggling a little bit, you can see from the size of that tiny little catfish that he's just landed. Things maybe not going all according to plan. 14 fish in the first hour. And right next door there is Germany's Ingo Frerichs on peg B21. Fascinating that people are so non-committal in this match. Nobody's going to tell us who's doing well, who isn't. It's just all guesswork. I think he just may have struck into a small fish there. Yeah, there we go, tiny little catfish. The staple of this competition.
Well, back now in C section, and we know that Adam Wakeling had a great start. Rob, it seems to be continuing.
Yeah, listen mate, he's had a fisher chuck from start to finish, and I'm walking this section, and he's not just winning it, he's annihilating it in my book. He's walking it, mate. So I can't see anything other than a win in this split section. You know, I think he'll win it. I think the German's looking second, but the German's, he's lost his way a little bit. Got the Hungarian on the end peg, and Hungary real force this year, but I think his head's fell off a little bit, mate. So you know, he's having a bit of a nightmare on the end peg.
This is actually the section that can make a massive amount of difference to that overall, because there's areas where England aren't fishing against Hungary. Yeah. There's areas where Hungary aren't fishing against Holland. Yeah, there's areas where we're not fishing against Holland either. Yeah. Germany seem to be the one that can come in and cause a little bit of an upset too, because you know they seem to be the big 4 now, but actually Belarus are doing all right as well.
Belarus are in the next split section. And they're doing really well. They've really surprised everyone. They're way up on the fish count. They're not catching big fish, but they're catching a lot of the catfish. And they're doing really well. I've got them probably second at least in that section. So they could come in and cause a bit of an upset.
So behind Mick Viles in D2 here, Rob, and things going pretty well for Mick here. He's pretty well averaging 20 fish an hour. 3 hours in, he's had 65 fish. A good combination of those little catfish and skimmers. It looks as though he is probably winning the section.
Well, that's a brilliant result. We've just heard from Rob Wootton that Adam Wakeling's doing something very similar. And again, when we spoke to Tommy Pickering yesterday, the target was 60 to 80 fish. If they can do that, they're exactly on target for what they want to do and where they want to be.
We're behind Torsten Kusters, peg D12 for Germany, and this morning when we started out we thought there were going to be 3 main players. Things have changed a little bit, haven't they?
Absolutely. Germany have just come flying in there, and we're hearing on the grapevine, again nobody will know until the end of the day, but we're hearing on the grapevine that it looks like it is now currently between England and Germany for first place. Hungary have had a bit of a nightmare in a couple of their pegs, and Holland just aren't really having a good day. Yeah, and it's been a tricky day.
It's been a very hard day. It's not over yet. Actually, the most important hour is coming now. But I can say now that for our team it's going to be tough. It's just not going to plan. Completely different again. Didn't we talk about it yesterday? I think Germany's doing very well. They might be leading after this day. Who would have expected them? I think England's doing very well, actually. Hard to say, but we are definitely not doing good enough. And disappointing. What can you do? Happens.
All of the guys that fished this area found that the bigger fish were shorter, and they all caught those bigger fish shorter, and that's what's put him up in that position. We see he's got a bite now. It's probably going to be another silver. We can just see it on the surface there.
Sun coming out too.
And this is exactly the point, you know.
Actually, that looked like a Carasio to me. That looked like a little tiny carp. Rob.
Well, it could well have been, because this area...
It is, isn't it? Look, it's a Carasio.
Yeah, this area is the area that the Carasio come from. Last section now, 40. This is the one we haven't been up and visited yet, and we've got some good news for everybody watching this at home, and also us on the bank here, that Steve Ringer would appear to be in the lead. He's in a bit of a ding-dong battle with a chap 3 or 4 pegs down from Belarus. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name. No, we shall find it out a little bit later. Yeah, Steve's looking pretty good at the moment. They're very close on the fish count, 91-93 as per about 10 minutes ago now. Both of them caught a couple of fish since then, but we do know on the quiet that 1 or 2 of those that Steve has got are slightly bigger than the others, and he's slowed down a little bit, and it's this last hour that will really sort the men out from the boys.
Well, Rob, every now and again in these World Championships you see something a little bit special. Here we are on E28, and this is Germany's Jens Jerksen, who I think is running away with the entire match, saving the best till last, the very last peg on the entire venue, about 2 kilometres away from peg A1. That's a Carasio. He's had a lot of those.
Well, he's drawn an absolute flyer, isn't he? Let's face it. He's on the very end of the section. This is the very start, just to the right-hand side of where he is. Approximately 150 metres up is the start of this canal. There's a lock. This side is the slack bit. There's virtually no flow at all. It's not just an end peg, but it's blocked a little bit further up, so he's not going to get any passing traffic. Anything passing upstream is going to end up here.
The weight of fish he's got, which he's now, I think, got 109 fish. 70 of those are probably Carasio.
Incredible, isn't it?
And we just didn't think there were the volume of... Well, they're obviously all sat here, as you say, right next to the lock there. But that's a huge ratio of fish. I bet he can't believe his luck.
Because it's Germany, this has a massive effect on the rest of the competition, particularly with regards to tomorrow. And the reason is that in the event that the winning teams tie on points, we'll have something called a countback. And the countback is who has got the greatest combined weight. Now, if it's England v Germany, that is the penalty analogy.
It sounds like penalties. It sounds like penalties, doesn't it?
We don't want to go there.
Chris Waddle.
Let's predict now that it's a draw, and we go to penalties. And penalties, basically, what we need is an Englishman in this peg tomorrow to get a weight bigger than this one.
David Batty?
No, don't. Let's just not go there. And, you know, I don't know what to say. Let's not predict it. Let's not even think about it. Let's have a look at the angling in front of us at the moment. And make no mistake about it, he's fishing really, really well.
Gareth Southgate?
No, not listening. Steve Ringer now in the moment of truth as Steve comes up. A few oohs from the crowd there. And we've got 3 kilo 300 next door. 4 kilo seems to be the main weight at the moment. There's a decent bream there. Don't want to be losing that one down the bank. And the scales have been zeroed. What we see is an empty purse on the scales there. It's checked that that is 0. All of the fish now will be put into that purse, and this will be the moment of truth as to whether Steve Ringer takes the lead in section. Glenn Lawrence there looking at the scales. That's definitely there. A thumbs up from Glenn Lawrence. 5 kilos, 541. We hear in various different languages the word fantastic. It translates very easily, but that's 5.5 kilos. Alexander Shukro from Belarus, and looking at that net, that's a big net. Has it beaten Steve Ringer into first place?
Well, it certainly could do. That's upwards of 4.5 kilo, isn't it?
5.541 is the Ringer weight, 5541.
Jeff Ringer and Glenn Lawrence watching behind anxiously to see what this one comes back with, Rob.
There's a lot of fish in there. The numbers are higher. It's going to be a very, very close one. Oh, 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 5. Oh, hang on now. Let's have a look at this. This is amazingly close. 5512. 5512. That is the score. 5512 for Belarus. 5541. 27 grams. That is one catfish.
It doesn't get any closer. You know, I mean, I chucked out with 2 minutes to go, and the captain Glenn Lawrence stood with me, and he said, "Do not reel in without a fish now." And I had 3 like little taps on the tip, lifted nothing. He said, "You cannot reel that in without a fish." And then it got to 15, and it went again. I picked it up, wound a catfish, and just got me the section win.
It was literally just before the hooter, wasn't it?
They were counting
out.
me down. I think it came out of the water at about 3. You know, I mean, at the time though, I had no idea how important it was. But Glenn just kept saying to me, "You're not coming back without a fish on this last chuck."
Elsewhere, it was a fantastic return from Steve's England teammates. Brother Phil won his section in A, Adam Wakelin won in C, and Mick Viles in the low numbers of D. Dean Barlow managed 5th in section B. The star of the show overall was Germany's Jens Dirksen. His weight of 14 kilos 134 from that E-section flyer was double anything caught by anyone else. His teammate Felix Sherman took the honours at the top of A-section. England landed 490 fish between them. They led the entire field, with a combined total of 9 points. That dream of an historic hat-trick of world titles remains alive and well. But beware the Germans. Their extraordinary day saw them in second with 11. Hungary were down in 5th. The Dutch were already out of it in 10th. With a day to go, it looked like a straight fight between England and the Germans, with Austria 3rd. Let's just hope it doesn't end up going to penalties.
Basically, brilliant day yesterday, 5 hours gone, halfway there. Another 5 hours today, get it done, get it won for the team, and we can go home.
I have good hope to get a good place in this day, maybe on the podium at the end of the event, but it seems good for our team.
You can't get yourself out of jail on this venue. You know, there's no big bream or a carp or something, rescue fish. So you've got, for 5 hours, you've got to make sure that you convert your bites, and every time you wind your feeder in, you've got to throw something in the net, and that's where we're at. And that's me today, and that's my pure focus.
As long as we're in contention when the points are added up today, we've got every chance of getting that elusive 3rd gold.
Tom, another day, another dollar, and this is the big one today.
It's a very big one, it really is, yeah. I think lads appear to be as cool as cucumbers on the box. It's us that's spewing inside. All the back runners are all as nervous as anything, really, but lads seem as cool as cucumbers. They really do.
Little recap of yesterday. What a dream day.
Well, unbelievable. If you'd have told me nine points before the start of the day, I'd have snapped your hand off. I mean, but I didn't think 2 teams would have 11 points as well. You know, I mean, cracking, incredible, really. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, we've got 4 section winners and a 5th, and we're only 2 points in front. I think it'll be won and lost in B and C section today, simply because all the teams are in the same group. So it's going to be really, really exciting, and all the teams are going to be under pressure, not just us.
You guys just work immensely well as a unit. It's not a team, it's a unit.
Well, that's something that Tommy Pickering's bred into us all, and we're his men. And you know, he teaches us almost military fashion. If he says run through that wall, then that's what we do, and that keeps us focused. Because you know, even individual anglers, you know, you drift because you have your own feelings. But he brings that together. He is the cement that makes our team so successful.
So we're looking across the canal now at Steve Ringer, who on day 2 is in A section, Andy, and this is A9. To his right as we look, he's got the Belarus angler Artyom Talku, which I think is probably the best Belarusian pronunciation there's ever been, and next door, slightly easier, it's the famous Belgian angler Michael de Bruyn. Oh, there we are, strike straight away. That's not a good sign. And he's in. That's going to be a silverfish. Don't seem to be massive down this section 40, but...
No. My feeling after looking at the scores from overnight is that The larger fish were in the lower numbers at the top end of A section. That's where the weights were, that's where the 7 kilo was. Down here where we're looking at the German angler now, there were much smaller weights. The weights dropped away quite dramatically down towards that end peg near the bridge. Overall in the match, where the Germans finish is hugely important to the England team.
Well, we need somebody in those upper A numbers to beat the Germans. Ideally, not really the Austrians. So,
are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to order who we want to win? I don't think that's... well, we'll have a go. We'll have a go.
Looking at Steve now, he's got a better fish on there, look. See the way that he's playing that? That's probably another silver.
We're 40 minutes into the start of day 2 now, and it's interesting having watched Steve for the first sort of 35 minutes of the match where he's really struggled. He's just starting to pick up a few fish. He's had a couple of cats. He's obviously got his feeding right. That's clearly a nice fish. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know whether I give it wow, but that will probably be 3 ounces. So for the purposes of this, we'll give it an ooh.
In the context of this match, that's wow.
B section, Phil Ringer, looking a bit slow over here.
Oh, section of death or what? I mean, Tommy said this morning that these couple of sections here are the ones where the match could be won or lost. At the moment, this is an absolute grueler, isn't it? We've just seen Phil's brother Steve up in A section doing okay, but all the time we've been standing here and all I've seen is Phil Ringer landing one tiny silverfish or a catfish. Just so small.
Very, very tight. Looking across at Mick Viles now, this is C section, just to establish the scene. England and Germany both in the higher numbers, so they've got the game they wanted. Mick said earlier that he wants to take the Germans on head to head, and they are next door but one. It's Torsten Kusters, very, very good German angler. And Germany peg 20, England peg 22. Quite a few fish being caught, primarily by the two of them, but only really small fish. Gobies, the odd silver, and also the catfish.
This is the section that Adam Wakelin won yesterday, Rob. This is not high weights coming out of here. Adam, he was drawn on peg 15, which is a few pegs to Mick's left. He had 5 kilos, 261 grams. The closest to him was, interestingly, the German angler, who had 4.8 kilo. But if we look at the peg that Mick's on, which is peg 22, as you mentioned, that's where the Romanian angler, Tudor Budacan, was drawn. He only had 52 fish. I say only, 52 fish in a match like this is great, but the weight is the interesting part. Clearly very small fish, 1.6 kilos only.
Seems to be a regular pattern this. All of the pegs that England have drawn today were very low scoring rounds yesterday.
Well, we're behind Adam Wakelin in E8, E section right at the top of the venue. Starting to get a rather worrying feeling that things are starting to unravel a little bit for England, because the news we're hearing on the bank is that the Germans are starting to push forward in almost every section.
Absolutely. It's proven to be a bit of a tougher day for England at the moment. You know, there's a lot more people that are in it today. The fishing isn't as good as it was yesterday, so everybody's scratching. The bad news for the England camp is that Germany are flying. And speaking to the German team a little bit further up here in E section, they think that they've definitely got 3 first in sections. And they've probably got a second, if not another first in section in E. Felix Sherman, the German angler that did so well yesterday down on A section. Great weight, won his section down there, 7 kilos. He's come into E section, and yesterday we saw that the end of E section was the place to be. That fantastic weight for Germany with 14 kilos, and would you believe it, today it's not performed. And Felix down here in E21 is winning his section.
It's going to be close this, you know. It's really exciting, isn't it, as this match starts to get down towards the sharp end.
Sat now behind Dean Barlow in peg 10, and we've got Glenn sitting here as well. In a little bit of hope at the moment, Glenn, it has to be said, eh?
Well, we never know. There's another hour and a quarter to go, so when you know what we're like, we fight to the end. We just need one of them magic last hours that we sometimes find, and things can turn around quite quick, as we found last year.
So where do we need our points?
Phil and Mick. Yeah, they're still catching odd fish and they're still working the pegs, so it's possible, you know, so the teams stop catching and they carry on catching a few fish, or a bonus skimmer somewhere along the line. It's that close again today on these weights. It can still go either way.
Now we're looking at the man that's likely to be crowned the individual world champion. This is Jens Dirksen from Team Germany. He's in peg A17. He was the one that had the flyer yesterday up in E section, landed that fantastic 14 kilos. We were wondering where he was going to draw today, and you know what? He's drawn a fairly decent peg as well, A17. This is the better end of A section, and he's on a flyer. He's leading the section by a considerable margin. He's going to be a 2-pointer, and he's got about 7 kilos, so he'll be 21-ish kilos, which will give him the individual title. Fantastic result for the youngster and fantastic result for Germany.
Really feel sorry for Tommy Pickering and his team at the moment, because clearly they'll be going through the mill at the moment. They had this competition in their grasp, 4 section wins yesterday, but the Germans have been fabulous today. They've produced an absolutely superb performance, and this man in front of us is clearly the cream of the crop.
The hooter has just sounded and the end of the 6th World Feeder Fishing Championships is upon us. The George Cross, as you can see, is flying semi-proudly behind us. We think England might still be in with a shout of a medal, but it's just gone drastically wrong today.
You really feel for Tommy Pickering and the guys, because they've worked so hard for this, but where there's disappointment for England, you've got to give credit to the Germans, because their performance today has been stellar. It has been incredible. To see what they've done here on this piece of canal, from the position they were in overnight, is absolutely extraordinary. And if they have won this, if they've swept the whole board here, they deserve every second of it.
Tom, the storm clouds rolling in the distance, and there's grey skies over us at the moment. It looks like that gold slipped away, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has, mate. I think they haven't weighed in like, but it's pretty obvious that Germany have won the event, and we didn't get it right first hour and a half, and they did. They did the same yesterday, but we managed to plough it back, and our tactics, we thought, would just get stronger. They didn't. They got weaker. I don't know what happened to the canal. It's just turned off, and we didn't adapt to it, to be honest with you. But we're still fighting for a second or a bronze. But if we don't get one, that will be proper gut wrenching. But because it was a special year, we're a bit disappointed. But end of the day, like, it's getting tough, this competition.
Tough all round. This was the scene as the scales made their way along the canal. Thunder, lightning, torrential rain matching Tommy Pickering's mood as confirmation came that Germany had won the title. Here's where the match was won and lost. England and Germany were fishing against each other in 2 of the 5 sections, and Germany won both battles in sections B and C. Steve Ringer and Adam Wakelin won their sections, but it wasn't enough to give England their 3rd successive title. The German winning margin was 13 points. Austria took bronze. Jens Dirksen added the individual gold to team honours. England took team silver, and Steve Ringer the individual silver medal too.
Double gold in Ireland, and we've got double silver in Serbia. Not the ideal medal colour, but obviously silver's better than a bronze, and from a personal point of view, I felt I fished a really good match today, better than yesterday, made some good decisions, had a great battle with the Belarus guy on my left, and I just got the edge at the end of the day.
Wow, a fairy tale come true for you.
Yes, of course, you're right. Yes, it's unbelievable. So I think I need 1 or 2 days more to recognize this. It's only, wow, yes. I'm happy that we win in the team competition, so this was our aim in the end, and that I'm the first in the overall results. That's, it's wow, you're right.